Hello, welcome back to Jen's Books. I hope you are having a fantastic week. I don't know about you, but I've really started thinking towards holidays now. I'm really fortunate. I'm going away for the first time in a long time later in the summer, and I've already started thinking about my holiday reading. I don't know about you, but there are certain rules that have to fit into place for a good holiday read. I'll be honest though, before I start this video, that I have already packed my e-reader full of goodies as well. So I will be taking that. It's got things like Alone with You in the Ether by Olivia Black. I've got Carrie Soto is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I've read nearly all of her more recent books and I'm really looking forward to reading that. Death of a Bookseller, which I've seen everywhere, by Alice um, Slater. Brutes by Diz Fate. The Birthday Party, which was one of the books that was shortlisted for the International Booker. The Witches of Vardo by Anya Bergman, and She is a Haunting by Trang Van Than. So I've already got quite a few books, squirreled away to keep me busy while I'm away. However, I really want to take some proper, it sounds awful, proper paper books as well, because nothing quite reads like a proper paper solid book. And particularly if you're sat by a pool and you don't want to get Kindle wet, I have lost Kindles on holidays through rain and things like that. It's sometimes handy to have something that you can grab and just chuck around a bit more. But I really don't know what to pick. So I thought in this video I'd have a look at some of the first lines of some of the books on my shortlist, and we'll whittle it down to 2 or 3 books that I can take with me. So for me, a holiday read has to be something that's really fully immersive, something that can really draw me in. I'm not too worried about it being overly literary. I just want something that's, just a roller coaster, something that to really take me in and take me on a journey. And so I often quite read books that are based in fantasy, or based in different countries or things when I'm on holiday, because I want that complete fantasy of being somewhere completely different. But the books I've sort of picked, a lot of them are a bit more realistic this time. But let's dive in and have a look. One of the other rules I have is that I usually wouldn't take a hardback with me, because it's valuable weight in the case. But there are 3 books in my shortlist here, so I'll start with those and see if we can whittle them out by looking at the first lines. So the first one is In Memoriam by Alice Wynne. I'm being desperate to read each of these 3 hardbacks, which I'm considering to take with me. So I'll probably end up taking one of them out of 4. But let's read the first page or the first line and see whether it draws me in. Elwood was a prefect, so his room that year was a splendid one, with a window that opened onto a strange outcrop of roof. Doesn't really grab me particularly, but it's taken me back to school immediately. So that's clearly a world that I've left behind sometime. And also I know that it's historical, it's based around the First World War. So yeah, maybe. Doesn't really grab me from the first line, which is probably unfair. All of these books I've featured on my book hauls and are all supposed to be great. I've heard fantastic things about all of them. The second one is Yellowface. You can't go anywhere without seeing this one at the moment, and that's by Rebecca Kwang. I've also got Babel or Babel on audiobooks to listen to as well, but this is the first line. The night I watch Athena Liu die, we're celebrating her TV deal with Netflix. Well, that does grab me straight away. There's tension, there's something at stake. We know there's something happening. So out of the 2, that would be at the top of my list. So what I'll do is I will keep them at a list and I'll put them in order as I go through as to which are the most engaging. Another one that I really want to read is Briefly a Delicious Life by Nell Stevens. So this was one that was around last year, and it's a sort of paranormal slant of a book, and I've heard again wonderful things about it. It's about a ghost that's living in or stuck in a particular location. I think it's a monastery where she's been stuck in Mallorca for for centuries. So basically she's watching people come and go and watching their love affairs and seeing how things progress. So it really interests me, and it is supposed to be really good. So let's have a look at the first line. Of course it wasn't the first time I'd seen two men kissing. Okay, so that sounds, you know, there's clearly romance there. I think that probably sounds more interesting than In Memoriam. It's grabbing me more. So I'll put that under Yellowface, but over In Memoriam. Another book I picked up is Bethany Clift, Last One at the Party. Those who are followers of my videos will know that I love a apocalyptic type story, and so this is why I picked this one up. It's about a deadly virus which hits at the end of this year, you'll be pleased to know, and one woman who survives in London, and about her life and the adventure that she goes on with her dog. I wish I'd looked at these beginnings before I read it, but the first line is F you. I think probably I need to read the second line on that. It seems a bit unfair to just leave it on that, but it says, F you, those are the very last words that I spoke to another living person. That sounds really good, actually. So I think that one is probably going to be up there with Yellowface at the moment. The next book I was considering is one that, again, I've heard lots of good things about. My mum and my sister are both reading and they really loved it. And it's sort of a bit of a classic, I think, already. And that's The Nightingale by Kristin Hannah. And this is a book about two sisters. It's based in the Second World War. It's about love and freedom. It's about two sisters that are pulled apart. One who gets involved in the resistance, and another, I think, who is living outside of Paris. I don't know much more about it than that, but I've been told it's really, really fantastic. Let's have a look at the first line of chapter 1. If I have learned anything in the long life of mine, it is this. In love we find out who we want to be. In war we find out who we are. Yeah, that's a really good opening line, isn't it? And it immediately gives us a sense of, you know, what the book's going to be about. And it also has those sort of universal themes about love and loss. So, yeah, that sounds good. But I don't think it's quite as good as Yellowface and Last One at the Party. And as I say, when I say good, I just mean personally to me, it's not drawing me in the same way. And everybody's different, everybody's reading interests are different. So when I say not as good, I don't mean that the books aren't as good, particularly as I've not even read them yet. It's just judging on that first line from my own point of view. So at the moment, I've got The Last One at the Party at the top, followed by Yellowface. So we'll put them to one side. The next book is a bit more of a classic. It's The Virgin Suicides. It's one that I feel like I should have read but never have. And there we go. It's a tender story of the brief lives of 5 entrancing Lisbon sisters. Each one of them ends their lives one after another over a space of the year. And I think the story is told through some boys, so it's through the male gaze, who have watched these events unfold. Don't know a huge amount about it more than that, but it was published in 1993, and it is one that I think has been made into a film, and you know it remains really popular. So, first line. On the morning the last Lisbon daughter took her turn at suicide, it was Mary this time, and sleeping pills like Therese. The 2 paramedics arrived at the house knowing exactly where the knife drawer was, and the gas oven, and the beam in the basement from which it was possible to tie a rope. Gosh, yeah, I mean, that's quite a long first sentence, but it tells us quite a lot already. That sounds really interesting. It's not easy, this job. I've seen some other YouTubers do these sort of first line battles, and they always seem to make it seem so easy and so straightforward. That's really hard, actually. I think probably I'm going to put that above Yellowface and beneath Last One at a Party for now. I think I'll revisit the top ones at the end and see whether I can narrow it down a bit more. The next one was a collection of short stories by David Eagleman. This was a recommendation by Jen Campbell on her channel, and it's loads of stories that explore the afterlife and concepts of the afterlife. So it sounds kind of creepy, it sounds surreal, and it sounds really, really intriguing. So, you know, it says, in the afterlife, you might find God is the size of a microbe and unaware of your existence, or you may find the afterlife contains only those people whom you remember, etc., etc. So it's different potential afterlives. So this is by David Eagleman. This is a post-library book by the looks of it, and it was published in 2009. So I quite like a collection of short stories because it's something you can pick up and put down. And if you're out and about enjoying your holiday, it's quite nice to have something you can just pick up and you know, read a section of. So the first short story is called Some, and the first line, or the first section, is: in the afterlife you relive all your experiences, but this time with the events reshuffled into a new order. All the moments that share a quality are grouped together. So it's kind of sounds like quite a concept-based collection of short stories. I mean, I immediately want to read on, but it doesn't grab me quite as much as some of these other books. So, I've put that above The Nightingale and under Yellowface. Another collection of short stories I picked up this year is The Doll's Alphabet by Kamila Gradova. One of the favourite books I've read this year is Paradise by Kamila Gradova, which got longlisted for the Women's Prize earlier in the year, and I absolutely loved it. It's the story of you know, beaten down old cinema in Edinburgh, and this sort of mysterious girl that starts working there is quite seedy and underbelly, and I really, really, really loved that book. So I thought I'd have to pick up her collection of short stories, and you can see it's a Fitzcarraldo edition, another one of those beautiful blue covers. So let's have a look. The first story is called Unstitching. Oof, this sounds interesting. One afternoon, after finishing a cup of coffee in her living room, Greta discovered how to unstitch herself. See, that immediately intrigues me. One of the descriptions that's been made about Kamila Gradova is sort of likening her to Angela Carter. I love Angela Carter, and there's a sense of magic realism there that I just want to read that straight away. Oh, well, I think I'm going to have to put that underneath. No. Oh, it's hard. It's hard, this, isn't it? I think I might even put that above Last One at the Party. I think the fact it's a short story collection is quite a plus in its favour as well. There's something, as I say, that I can pick up and read bit by bit. Just a few more. The next one was If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. Again, it's a book that I've heard a lot about. It's a dark academia book. It's about a gentleman called Oliver Marks who served 10 years for a murder he may or may not have committed. And on the day of his release, he's greeted by the detective who put him in prison. So they start going back over the events to find out what actually happened. But here we are, and it's also sort of linked into Shakespeare as well. So the first section is entitled Act 1, and there's a prologue. So I'll start with the first line of the prologue. I sit with my wrists cuffed to the table, and I think, but that I am forbid to tell the secrets of my prison house. I would a tale unfold whose lightest word would hallow up my soul. So he's immediately drawing on Shakespeare. I think this book's probably really good, and if you're a lover of dark academia, I think this is probably one that you'd really enjoy. But that beginning doesn't grab me. I mean, I'm a fan of Shakespeare as much as the next man, but it doesn't really grab me, and particularly as it's a prologue as well. But it does really set up the story and give an idea of the theme and the links with Shakespeare and the links with performance. So I think that's probably really a great book, but it's going on the bottom of the pile for now. Right, so the next one is one that I bought purely based on the title, and that is Night Bitch by Rachel Yoder. And again, I've heard really interesting things about it. It's quite a surrealist story. I think it's about a woman who starts to turn into a dog, a new mother who begins to turn into a dog. I don't know much more about it than that. Whether that's metaphorical or physical, I'm not sure. But the first line is, when she referred to herself as Night Bitch, she meant it as a good-natured, self-deprecating joke, because that's the sort of lady she was. A good sport, able to poke fun at herself, definitely not uptight, not wound really tight, not so freakishly tight that she couldn't see the humour in light-hearted, not meant as an insult situation. But in the days following this new naming, she found the patch of coarse black hair sprouting from the base of her neck and was like, "What the f?" I hope you realise it doesn't actually say f. I'm moderating the language for the video. But what I really like about that is that sort of tension in the voice. There's a real a sense of the character coming through immediately. So we've got the sense of somebody saying they're not uptight, but actually is coming across as really uptight. And then this surprise, this patch of hair growing at the base of her neck. That sounds really good. I mean, I think that and the Doll's Alphabet really tick the sort of surrealist, unusual, kooky, slightly strange, bizarre scratch that I like to itch. So I think they're probably both at the top for now. The last book that I'd shortlisted is one that I'd heard was good. It was a book that I think had been on TikTok. I'm not on TikTok, so I'm always slightly concerned I'm going to call it the wrong thing or whatever. But it's by V.E. Schwab, and it's The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. And this is, what ticks the book for this in some respects is, you get your money's worth there for a holiday read. It's a really good, thick, solid, chunky boy of a book. And my understanding is it's about an invisible woman. Oh, it's metaphorically invisible. So she makes a desperate deal in the dark. Her deal is to live forever but be remembered by nobody. So there's this concept here about how her life works in a world where she can live forever, but no one ever remembers her. So it sounds really interesting. Right, okay. The first line. The girl wakes up in someone else's bed. Nope. No, that was going to the bottom. It's probably a really good book and I probably really enjoy it, but we're going strictly on first lines here. Strictly on first lines. But I'd love to know if you've read any of these books and what your thoughts were, whether they were books that you enjoyed. But so far, I think actually The Doll's Alphabet and Night Bitch, I have a feeling, are probably going to be similar in tone. So I kind of feel like I need to pick one of these. Let's look at those first lines again. One afternoon, after finishing a cup of coffee in her living room, Greta discovers how to unstitch herself. And the one that I won't read it again, the longer one about the uptight character. I think this is a better intro. I think I'm probably going to enjoy this one more. So I think I'm going to pick The Doll's Alphabet out of those two. So when I go on holiday later in the year, I'll be taking The Doll's Alphabet. Now let's have another look. I think probably the main three contenders that I need to work down are The Virgin Suicides, Last One at the Party, and Yellowface. This is really hard. So Last One at the Party again. F you, those are the last words that I spoke to another living person. The Virgin Suicides is about the police arriving. I think that one's going to go in, The Virgin Suicides. And then the other one was Yellowface. Oh, those four. How do I pick? Well, I think those four are the ones that I'm going to take. If I can fit all four of them in. If I can't fit all four of them in, I don't know how I'm going to pick which one stays at home or which two stay at home. But that's really hard. But I have whittled it down with your help. But let me know what your thoughts are, whether you've read any of these books, as I say. and which you would pick. That would be really helpful actually in reducing this down to 3 manageable books to take with me later in the year. But in the meantime, thank you very much for sharing that really quite challenging experience with me. That was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. And, you know, there are still some books there that I really, really, really want to read, but I have to be brutal. I have to be brutal in this case. But thank you very much. I'd love to know, as I say, if you've read any of those books, what your thoughts were. If you recommend any of those in particular to take with me, it would be really good to hear. But in the meantime, have a great week. Thank you very much for joining me, and I'll see you again on Jen's Books. Take care. Bye.